FearlessFlight Live, and with me, of course, are my trusty standbys, Eric Larson, former captain and somebody who got stuck flying with me at one point in his career, Diane Hansen, who didn't get stuck with either of Eric and I because she was late to the industry and is our resident flight attendant, and then Dieter Staudinger got stuck with all of us. So he's our technical officer, so we're glad to be back tonight. And we have a couple of special guests. We have 4 special guests, actually, a couple of couples and with Fearful Flyers, and we just flew over the weekend, and we'll be introducing them in just a minute. First thing we want to do is just let you know, if you're new here, this is a place where you can come if you have issues with fear of flying, or if you know somebody who's afraid to fly. And of course, the last category is if you just like talking about airplanes, because we do that as well, and things going on in the industry. And the next thing that we like to mention is, if you are not a member of our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather group, it's our private Facebook group, we encourage you to do that. We're up over 1,000 strong now, and we definitely have critical mass. And so there's always somebody there to meet you and greet you and talk about issues with you. And I know just this last week, we probably added another 20 people or so. So it's going. Oh, and there he is. Show up. There's our mystery guest there. So we'll just start into that, and we'll start into our special guests here. We have Jim and Melissa Morris, who reside in Southern California. They went with us over the weekend. Welcome to you guys. Letitia and Bill came down from Northern California and joined us in the class. And then the last comer, so you guys can pop up if you want now. And Stu Delita. Did I get that right, Stu? Delita. Okay. We're delighted to have you here, Stu. I know you've never heard that before. So anyway, yeah. So tonight we just wanted to dedicate the show to people who flew over the weekend with us. You know, right now we have the Clear for Takeoff 101 class, which is both. I do that locally in person at the Phoenix airport once a month. And then I came up with another version that we do online the following morning. So for people who live elsewhere in the world and can't get to the class, you can now participate live on a webinar on a Sunday morning once a month. And then we do the Clear for Takeoff 201 class, which used to be in residence at a hotel close by Phoenix, and then we moved over into LA and started doing some over there. And so we used to cram a bunch of content in the morning, and then whatever people that we could talk into flying with us in the afternoon would go flying with us, and we'd take a short flight out from the LA area and back, or the Phoenix area and back. And COVID put an end to all of that, all of the in-person stuff, as many of you well know. And so what we did then, Dieter and I had been long trying to do that, but we end up putting all of the content up in the cloud. So now we have something called the Clear for Takeoff 201 online course. And we just initiated that back in September. Jim is one of the first people. He started back there, and he's been a steady participant with us, which is good for him, I hope, and it's good for the rest too, because it's nice to have people who are in there, and for overcoming your fear of flying is a process, and that's what I've noticed over the last 35 years. And while we want to have a magic wand, a magic pill, or something like that, and believe that all we got to do is a little bit of work and then we get better, it usually isn't like that. It's suspect to relapse if you don't fly, which many of us do not fly that often. And so the 201 was one of our goals, was to help people stay current, if you will, just like we do, when we're crew members, like Diane and Eric and I. When you fly for a living, you have to do not only your training to get qualified initially, but you have to also stay current, and we have to go to recurrent training at least once a year. And so the 201 does that. So I'm gonna do that, talk about that. And the last person is Stu, also joined us, and And so, well, I guess I didn't introduce Letitia and Bill. Letitia was the fearful flyer in her family, and a delightful person. I hope I don't build you up too much, because you guys were just phenomenal, fun to be with. And I've got to know Jim and Melissa and Bill and Letitia and Stu and April. Where I was hoping April would be here to rib you, but that's all right. Yeah.
I invited her, but her best friend just passed away last Sunday. Yeah, so she's completely.
Oh, totally understand. So anyway, well, let me just start out that, just generally, you can jump in whenever you want to, or individually. What if you can describe the experience Saturday, basically, what was it like leading up to the flight and getting to the airport and all that? And don't everybody talk at once.
Letitia,
go ahead, Letitia. Okay, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
Letitia, you go. Go
you guys, Letitia, you drove from Reading. How was that drive down there? How many times did you think about turning around and going back?
I was committed, so I never want to do that. Because I haven't flown for 11 years, so I was very committed. I'm like, I'm doing this no matter what. I don't care if I cry, if my body starts shaking. I didn't care. I'm getting on that plane because I'm sick of not traveling, and my family's sick of me not traveling. So I was very committed. So we went, when we got into Burbank, my husband's like, because our hotel was in Pasadena, and he's like, do you want to go drive by the airport?
And this is on Friday night.
Friday night, yeah.
Sure.
And my first thought was, no, I do not want to do that. But I thought, okay, let's do it. So we went to the airport, we walked around, we went everywhere. We walked the whole thing. I took pictures, and then we went and watched the flights take off. And we just watched Top Gun, the movie.
Yeah.
So I love the movie, and I was like so excited about flying because of the movie, even though I'm scared of flying and all that, but I was like, oh, it looks like so much fun. And so we kind of got pumped up, and so that he put on the
soundtrack
to Top Gun. So we were like having a date, sitting there watching the airplanes.
Cool.
So it's kind of fun. So that night I was fine. We went back to the hotel, went to dinner. So yeah, it was a great evening. And then we got to the airport, and I was excited to meet everybody and see Captain Ron. So like, I wasn't nervous at all. And even Jim, when he came, he's like, you guys everybody seems calm, We were like laughing and talking. And so yeah, it was great until we were getting on the airplane. Then the tears started coming and the anxiety. And then I got a little worked up.
Yeah. And you entitled that Bill we were joking at lunch when we got up there, because you disappeared with the credit card, and he said, I hope she's not renting a car, going to drive back. but we were only joking because you were really committed. So I'll ask Jim, this is now you've flown multiple times, Jim, right?
Yeah.
So
for full disclosure, for people who are watching, I've flown with Ron now. This is my third time, second time with the group. And as Captain Ron mentioned, fear flying is a process. If you've had a habit of being scared of flying, I accept that it's going to take a little while to untangle that. And then the secret sauce is really just to keep flying, just keep doing it. So that's what I keep doing it. And it gets better. It does get better each time. So and I'm lucky I have a supportive, spouse who comes with me. And I think having a supportive person in your life is actually very important in conquering any fear.
I do too, and that was a common theme for all three of you. Stu had his sister April, and despite the sibling rivalry, which they were entertaining with and whatnot, and you with Melissa and Letitia with Bill, it really does make a difference. I've had people in the past classes where the husband, he's just a good old boy and made a lot of jokes and stuff like that. And I cautioned him, I said, I wouldn't keep that up all that much, because if she gets over this fear of flying, she might get over you as well. So anyway.
I want to say, Jim told me when I was crying before we got on the airplane, Jim said, this is the hardest part. Like this, and it was true. Like that first, before you get in, it was the worst part. And then once I got on the airplane, you still have the anxiety, but you your mind starts settling a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was interesting that was like, it really was the worst part. And then on the way back again, getting on is the worst part.
Yeah.
How full was the plane, Ron? What was the load factor?
Packed. Both of them were packed.
Wow.
Yeah. No spaces.
Did you guys all get together? Were you able to work that out?
Yep. The folks at Burbank, they did not only gave us pre-boards for the way up, but they gave us the pre-boards for the way back. So, although I got stopped when I was pre-boarding, I always board after everybody. And the gal at the gate, she was giving me grief because I didn't have a pre-board. And I said, well, they never give me a pre, and next time you get a pre-board. So, okay, whatever. So anyway, but they never have done that. Stu, how about you? What was your experience like?
It was all really good. I mean, driving up there, I thought I'd be, really nervous. I wasn't. We drove up to the thing, and then we'd never been there before, so we didn't know what lot to go in or whatever. And then I saw valet, and I'm in. So we valeted, which was awesome, and then just walked right into the thing. And then when we got inside, when we were all standing there talking, it was just getting hotter and hotter in there. And I kept thinking, is everyone else hot? Because I started sweating.
It was hot.
And then all of a sudden, when we went back through the TSA line, it was nice and cool. So I didn't have, I wasn't really freaking out. Like Letitia, when you were crying.
Yeah.
So I cried, I wanted to hear you okay, and stuff, but it looked like you were still right there, though. I didn't feel like you were, I got to get out of here.
No, I never once felt like I'm going to get out of here. I was committed. I didn't care if I'm bawling or what. I'm going.
I could see that in your eyes, And then Jim, you looked as cool as a cucumber too. And you were saying, why is everybody like so happy? I'm thinking, well, you look the same way. I didn't feel like.
But Stu, we share. How long had it been since you'd flown?
35 years.
Oh,
wow. No, Stu was calm as a cucumber, and then he said, "Oh, I haven't flown for 35 years," and I was like, "What? How is that possible?" I thought if anybody was going to be like wigging out, it would be like the 35. The 35-year absence of flying.
What airplane did you fly in last 35 years ago? Like a DC-3 or something fancy?
Oh God, no! I think it was MD-80.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. A brand.
So let's just go around. So what were the triggers for you, Letitia, before you flew?
For me, it's the door closing because I'm claustrophobic.
Okay.
For me, it's all about claustrophobic. So the door closing and being stuck up in the up in the sky, you can't get out.
Right.
And that window that you get a look at is this big. My body's not going to fit through that. If I break it.
We won't joke about fitting through that window after that tragic accident on Southwest anymore. Yeah.
You're not supposed to fit through the window.
Yeah, exactly. Jim, how about you? What are the issues for you?
It's turbulence, It's always a trigger, although it's becoming less of a trigger, but it's still, so I can get on the plane. And I'm fairly calm, but I'm still waiting for turbulence to happen. And then when it happens, I don't really like it, but I'm learning to accept it more, but that's the process.
Yeah. Stu, how about you?
Okay. And I will say, I was really, because you kept saying, people say, oh, it's not the turbulence, I'm not afraid of turbulence or whatever. And then when they get up there, they realize that is a trigger for me.
Yeah.
So when we first sat down, I thought you guys were going to sit all right next to us and behind us, and you went halfway back. But I loved that seat up front. I'm not giving this up. So we decided to stay there. But as we were sitting there, and we were just talking about, all of a sudden I felt that what happens to me, that anxiety wave comes over, and it feels like it's coming like from the back of my head forward.
Yeah.
And I said, oh good God, all I wanted to do was run out that door.
Yeah.
And so I sent my sister the video piece that you said, the people that are flying with them, I want you to do this, which was grab their attention, have them look in their eyes and tell them say, you know, what are you feeling? What are you going through? And she did that immediately. And I'm not kidding. Not even 2 minutes later, it was gone, which freaked me out because I've tried to do that myself when that happens and it doesn't work.
It's doing it for yourself is kind of like trying to tickle yourself. It just doesn't work,
Doesn't work.
you know?
Yeah.
And
So-
you think it's good, but yeah.
Yeah, I was blown away that happened. I was so happy, I can't even tell you. And
Yeah.
then the flight attendant, oh, what the hell was her name? I loved her.
Oh, she was, yeah, the first one we
Yeah,
had,
she was
yeah.
great.
So sweet and funny. And I don't know if you know, but she was a school teacher all her life. And this is her retirement fund job, she said.
Yeah, yeah, kind of
Isn't
like
that-
Diane in a way. I mean, they're very similar, and a lot of flight attendants, you know, who do that later in their life. A lot of school teachers, a lot of former nurses,
Nurse.
and
All kinds
and
of
and wanted to do it all their life and never had the opportunity. So I'll just
Ron?
go ahead.
We just got a fewer
Question?
question, and it kind of fits well with the turbulence there for Jim and Stu. So Don actually, I think he said his partner, girlfriend, she was flying and her flight was diverted. And of course, one of the hobbies of many fearful flyers is being on Flight Radar 24 and tracking flights. And so the flight was diverted because to avoid the weather at the destination, and then they didn't have enough fuel to find a way, so they had to land somewhere else. But the question really was about, can turbulence really become like an experience that you cannot avoid as a pilot or as a crew, on your route? Is it possible that turbulence is so prevalent on the route that you can't go up or down or go around it?
Good question.
It's
I mean,
there.
we
I
have-
thought that
we
was a
have
good
days-
question to ask you guys.
Yeah, we have days like that, right, Eric? I mean, there's days that it's hard to believe, but it's everywhere.
Yeah, and I saw his questions. I liked them all, and he said, well, the first one he said, well, my girlfriend went through Miami and got rerouted, and I was going to answer that right away. I said, I guess it's time for a new girlfriend. But then in the next line, he says she did finally show up where she's supposed to go. But once in a while, as he says, in Asia, in the monsoons, or Ron, what's the region around the equator? What do you call that? Where
Of course. Now I'll forget
I'm
it.
sorry.
It's tropical convergence.
I was going to say tropical convergence zone. So these two air masses clash, go in a different way, and there is always bad weather there for quite a distance. And if we'd had our guest on our 777 Captain Buddy Nat, he would tell you that there is never a time that you don't go down there and have to deal with harsh weather for a significant distance. But generally, you get around it or have an area and you deviate around it and that kind of thing, and then it goes on better. You don't generally ride in harsh turbulence for a long time. That's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. And so what Eric's talking about is where the two jet streams in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere bump up against each other. And in addition to that, if you look at the equator, about 75% of it is over large bodies of water. So you've got all this energy coming up from the water vapor that's being heated, and it can be a problem. And while Eric, rightfully used the term, you got a lot of, your chances are high to end up in stuff like that, and it can be larger air mass stuff like that. It's still something that we plan for. And some of you may remember that the Air France 447 that ended up crashing, it had encountered an area in the tropical convergence zone, a big line of thunderstorms, but that is not what brought them down. What brought them down was a tragic misinterpretation on the part of least experienced crew members on the crew, and the captain happened to be up in the bunk at the time, and so they entered a situation that and the one thing you can say about it is everybody got training after that, and it's likely never going to happen again. So again, I wanted to bring that up, but it's an area in which you can pretty much count on turbulence. But again, I want people that I come in contact with and have any influence over, I want you to not to think about finding, going on weather.com or turbulence.com to avoid that, because your odds of being successful in predicting that, if you do that, you need to go to work for one of the airlines, because we need somebody with that kind of talent to keep us out of turbulence, because it's pretty much, it pretty much has a mind of its own, and we do our best to avoid it. So anyway, yeah, and I had another thought.
And if you get diverted, the reason for that is to keep you all safe. We're going to go somewhere where there's not the bad weather. I've gotten diverted from supposed to land in San Luis Obispo and got diverted and landed overnight in LAX. One trip a couple years ago, coming back from Phoenix, and 90% of the trip was perfect. And we got near Phoenix, and oh my goodness, there happened to be a tornado sighting, and we wound up going to Yuma. So no, these guys, they're not going to fly into that kind of stuff. They're just
right. So there's three things that have come up. One is the notion of course, as soon as I say three things, I can't remember the three. But we're talking about the weather and diverting. Diane just brought up diverting, and if you don't know, if you don't have a context for how you can head to one place and then end up somewhere else, that sounds like a drunken excerpt from the Hangover movie or something, right? And that's the context that we live with as human beings. And flying is so different from that. It's all calculated and planned ahead of time, so that even when we go to our alternate, that was a planned maneuver. And we had the fuel when we started all that to do that. And the bottom line here is, for people who say, well, I'm not worried about the airplane crashing or thunderstorms or anything like that, I just don't like being cooped up. I offer to them, if you weren't afraid about something going wrong, why would you be worried about being confined? Because you could practice sitting in a closet for 6 hours. That's all it would take, if you're not worried about the closet having structural failure. But that's why, and I'll move into this because I want to ask everybody this, that's why I think it's always been a part of our three-legged stool, and that is education, learning how to distract and disrupt your thinking, and then the sense of community. So the first one that I'll address here is educating yourself, and that's why we've always had a major part of that. And the Clear for Takeoff 201, I would like to get all of your feedback on that. We talked about this a little bit on Saturday, on how helpful was that to have a place where you could go on your own, and learn when you wanted to learn. And what did you find that what do you remember from the curriculum in the 201? Anybody? Stu, you were making some comments when we did about how much that helped you. And what are some of the things that you got out of that?
Well, I think knowledge is power, no matter what. So with all the information that was on there, just learning just stuff that I would have really never really thought to delve into, how a plane, supports itself in the air and all that kind of stuff, where turbulence actually comes from. Even the clear air turbulence thing, I've never heard of that in my life. So that was extremely interesting. And I think that gave me peace of mind in the back to realize, so I've been a performer all my life. So when you're a dancer, let's say if you're a dancer, the first thing you learn is ballet, because the technique that you use in ballet transfers to every other style of dance. So most dancers start with the technique, the base of what you have. From there, they can then branch out to other things, explore other styles of dance, but they have that technique to support them through that process. Same thing for me with that 201 class course, going through all that. And I love the way you set it up in the three different levels. The first, what was it called? If I had my book here, I'd
Well, the first there's 4 modules, but the first one is the psychology of fear in
Right.
flying. The second one is about the basics of flight, where we talk a lot about just flying itself. And then the third part, we talk about the coping strategies. And then the last module is putting it all together. So,
Yeah, so that second one was just, then I knew what was going on, at least when something was happening or if something should happen. Then the next one, the coping strategies, that's the most important part, you know, having the getting the knowledge of being able to things to do, the breathing through the straw, the game, but we never played that.
Yeah.
The number game.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was a good one too. All that stuff just then allowed me to cope with what was happening, or if something should happen, this is the tools I needed to have while I flew. So
Okay.
I think that course is so awesome. That's what got me in the plane.
Letitia, anything that you remember in particular or that was helpful?
I mean, all of it. You know, I got the FearlessFlight kit 3 years ago, and so I felt like, oh, I know a lot of it. So when I got the 201, I was expecting to kind of already heard a lot of it. So I was surprised how much new information I learned. And for me, the Zoom calls were all very helpful that you guys had in there.
Yeah.
Hearing all everybody else's stories, and I mean, I thought it was great. I like
that's I remember you, I think it was you talking about that, is looking through. What I did was I've taken a lot of people like you all and done the interviews, and I will ask you all to if you want to participate too, and put your stories up there, because one of the biggest limitations one of the biggest benefits when we all met together is the exchange, people saying, oh my God, I'm not, I thought I was the only one, and then you realize that you're not, you know. So it helps. I was hopeful that it would at least convey some of that, where you could see other people.
I thought I didn't think anybody else was like claustrophobic like I am. And then, you hear, oh, there's a lot of other people like me, you know?
Yeah.
So it was very helpful for me.
And Jim, well, the other thing I'll add too is that it's a dynamic course. So I'm adding content to it all the time. So that's why, for people who, when you know, should you fly like you all have done, I want to encourage people to come back and keep looking in there and look at the new things in there. Because we learn stuff all the time from you all, if nobody else, about what works and what doesn't. So any thoughts, Jim? Because you've been here the longest, you're probably getting. Yeah.
No, I think Stu and Letitia did a good job of explaining the actual online stuff, and I agree with what they said. I would just add that I think that the power of community is really the special sauce. That like you said, you're not alone, but you can sort of let go of the shame of your own. There's something very shameful of, oh, I have this fear about flying, when so many millions of people do it. That can sort of is insidious. And once you meet other people who share that, that's powerful. And then the sauce is really going as a group on that flight. That there is something very powerful when you take a group of people and they are facing a fear together that imbues you and makes you think, we can do this, this. And it gets you on the plane. And then hopefully afterwards, then you take flights, you know, with the spouse or on your own to keep it up. But I know I did. A lot of people need that first push in a group to be like, we're going to do this. And that's so, that I didn't have the word. It's not just cool. It's like, it's powerful. It is. It's the human spirit in action. I always feel like we're like Rocky or something, but as a group going in.
Yeah.
And when I found I'm worried about everybody else, like when we were like the way to Sacramento from Burbank, Sacramento, you know, Stu was sitting in the front of the plane, so he wasn't with us. And I was so worried about Stu. That kind of kept my mind off of my issues, because I was like, is Stu okay? I want to get up. I want to go check on him. You know, he's up there right with his sister.
I wanted to come back to see if you were okay too, Letitia. And I knew Jim was good because he had those big headphones on. Those were huge.
Yeah.
But, you know, I kept going. My luck, I'd take the seatbelt off, and then we'd hit something, and I'd go flying across the thing. That would just be
Yeah.
horrible.
How did
Would
you
you-
get separated from the group, Stu? Was it just that there were so many people?
No, I wanted to sit at the bulkhead part, so I didn't have a chair 2 inches from my face.
Yeah, we
love-
talked about that. That goes to, speaks to the uniqueness of everybody's, what works for them is that I think Letitia was saying that, the feeling closed in, feeling, or no,
Yeah.
you said looking at the bulkhead would
I felt
make you
claustrophobic.
claustrophobic. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I was
Okay,
so
good.
tight.
And for Stu, it was just the opposite. And
Yeah.
that's the second time when I flew in Boston in March, there was another couple there. They were teamed up together and they got in there and she hollers at me. We're headed to the back. She's like, "Hey Ron, can we sit up here?" And I said, "Sit wherever you're comfortable." But she didn't realize that there was a bulkhead in the first row and you have a lot more leg room. So it's interesting. And on this flight, we had two people with exactly opposite perspectives on how that happened. And it's just amazing. If full disclosure, we had a couple of people that did not fly. And one of the things that I thought was really astute on Letitia's part, one of the folks lived in the Bay Area and they were going to meet us in Sacramento and join us. And Letitia said, I'm glad that we drove down here because meeting everybody firsthand kind of empowered you. And I that's what I've seen for years. When I confess that the first couple of classes I did years and years ago with people, I'd see people crying and breaking down. And inside I was agonizing. I thought, you're going to break these people permanently. But the process, I swear, it's not about what I do. It's about people coming there and the orientation. If you can imagine, when you go there by yourself, you're thinking about what other people are thinking of you. And all of you have disclosed, when you go with a group of people like that, you're thinking about the other people.
Yeah.
It's a totally different perspective, and you get out of yourself. It is to touch on what Jim said. There is kind of a magical experience to it. So,
did any of you guys sleep on the way back down from Sacramento to Burbank?
Just me.
I wanted to, but I knew I had never
Besides
lived it.
you're all
Yeah.
He wanted to sleep.
No, he was
Yeah.
talking to me most of the time because I kept going, "What's that?"
Well,
I should have been there to enable you guys.
yeah, there you go. So
I gotta fly.
before we get off of this, I'll ask Bill. You've been around Letitia reportedly for a long time, and what was it like for you to watch her go through this process and then actually fly on Saturday?
Well, you guys brought up that it takes a lot of courage to do that because it's real easy to just avoid it. It takes an act of courage to pursue it and say, even though it's uncomfortable, I don't like it, it stresses me out, gives me anxiety, I'm still going to pursue that. And it's inspiring, especially like Jim pointed out, the group effort going into it really makes a huge difference because you have the spectrum, whether it's Stu, who hasn't flown in 35 years, or Jim, who is now a veteran in this process. Everybody has something to offer, and it really was impactful to watch it. Personally, I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes and have that feeling, but nonetheless, it's still impactful to see everybody's process and how this came together. It was inspiring.
I have
Melissa? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have a question for the three of you. We've talked about it previously about your why. What was the why?
Yeah, good point.
Behind you're finally saying, okay, I've got to fly now. I've got to do this. So for some people, it's a particular job. For some people, it's a particular reunion or a family greeting or something. That's the why that just pushes you over that edge to say, I've got to do this now. So what was or is everybody's why for this?
I'd say for me, in the last 11 years, I missed my brother's 40th birthday party. My husband, Bill, and the girls, our girls, they all went to New York, and I missed it because I was scared of flying. So we live in California, so we only drive to Disneyland because I don't want to fly anywhere. I'm sick of doing that. And then our daughter, our 20-year-old daughter, she's moving to Hawaii. Well, I want to go visit her in Hawaii. Okay. And then our son, he's married now and he's 23, and they're moving to Salt Lake City. I don't want to drive 10 hours to Salt Lake City, every time I want to go see him. And I'm just sick of it. I finally got to the point, I'm like, I'm done. I'm sick of driving. I'm sick of, the whole thing. So.
Yeah, those dang kids, they move away.
They move away.
They move away.
Parents say, "What's up with that?"
I lived in Honolulu. You can't drive there. Trust me.
Oh, you can't drive.
There you go. Jim, what was your guy?
Yeah.
No, my why, the quick one is my mom, it got older and is now in a retirement home, so she can't fly to see me. For years, she could fly to see me and that would be fine. But that was sort of the outside reason. The inside reason is more of what Letitia said, that I am sick of it. I'm sick of it because when you say I can't do something, really there's a part of you unconsciously that says you can't do this because you're scared. And even though you can avoid it and you can move, there's something that unconsciously goes around in the back of your mind that says you can't do this. And I just read, there's a curiosity, if I'll make up that word. You just get furious that nobody's holding me back except me.
Yeah.
And I was just tired of it. So and I'm sort of bulldozing through.
Yeah. And the only thing that I could think of that you lost was that endorsement that you were going to give Amtrak. So that will no longer be possible. That's scathing criticism of your Amtrak experience.
I want to go for a couple of train rides, and the Fearful Flyers are scaring the tar out of me about buying a train ticket anywhere because it all comes back and it sounds pretty bad, like a baton death march. So now I'm freaking out.
Yeah. Stu, how about you?
Yeah,
how about you, Stu?
Oh, I was offered a job stripping in Florida, so I really want to take it. So I have to go down to Florida, fly to Florida and, to work.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
I'm just kidding, right?
Yeah. I do, but I don't, but the way you pull it off, I don't think anybody else does.
Okay.
I'm just going to say with no amusement in my face. And what does a stripper do? Is that a colloquialism for a different sort of professional activity that comes to mind?
No, a full-on pole and everything.
A pole person.
Strings.
Yeah, shoe show, right? All right.
No.
I'm paid to keep my clothes on, by the way, Stu. I just want to put that out there. Yeah.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to pay them, to watch me.
Right.
No, so we're hopefully moving to South Carolina. So we have to go there first to decide if that's what we really want to go to. So I have to get down there, I'm
what
not,
city?
not driving.
Yeah, where in South
City?
Oh, Myrtle Beach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Supposed to be very beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Let me know when you get there. I'll come visit.
Oh yeah, are you down there?
I love it. It's beautiful there.
Yeah, I've heard tons of people they flock there. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Good wise.
Peter, do you have any other questions that we might answer before we go here? And we'll wind this up.
Actually, yeah. So there was a question that hasn't quite been touched on, and that is, and I think I wanna ask start Letitia. So the question that came in was, how do you feel about the online course? Like because the question was about, could I do the online course if I cannot fly with Captain Ron or with us, because I live in, I think, Atlanta. And so the question for you guys, if this flight didn't happen, would each of you have had enough knowledge and enough I guess support and confidence to do this on your own? Yeah.
For me, honestly, I would have drove to Captain Ron. If I lived in New York, I would have drove to him. I needed him like I did. He got me through the flight. He talked to me the whole entire flight, the way there. I mean,
I may not sell it.
I would have driven a week to come fly with you.
Okay.
So and share from my perspective, watching her go through it, the 201 was great. And,
It was great,
and
yeah.
I mean, we spent I was there with her.
Yeah.
We spent hours and hours and hours going through all the material. And I think that it did a very good job in prepping her for
Mhm.
the flight. But I knew that's what she would answer. You know, okay, you live in Georgia or wherever.
I
Well,
would drive.
drive to Phoenix,
Yeah,
or drive to Burbank. No question about it.
Yeah.
That's her level of commitment, and to see it follow through to the end.
And one advantage to the 201 now in the cloud is that we now are collecting people's preferences. And, you know, we started flying like in Boston, and we will be flying out of Atlanta and other cities coming up. So, you know, timing, I had somebody, we have another client said, how about Hawaii? If I get enough people that want to go on the same day to Hawaii, we're going to Hawaii. I would do that. Yeah. But that's a little bit dicier. So anyway.
You know, Captain Ron and Dieter, can I just piggyback on that? Because on that question, I think it depends what you see your severity of fear of flying is. I agree with Letitia. I wanted a group first. You know, I needed that. But I would say to people who are on the mild, who are still flying, but it's becoming more and more uncomfortable, that the online course would help them a lot. But they don't necessarily have to fly with you. They could sign up for the online course, and that would sort of build in the reassurance where they didn't become a severe case.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
I
a
agree.
good point. Yeah.
Can I get to? I agree with you, Jim, wholeheartedly. I think that it's awesome. The 201 is awesome, but I really wanted to go with everybody as well. I really wanted to do the group thing. I really wanted to fly with Captain Ron. I don't know, for some reason that gave me strength.
Mhm. Me too.
It really did.
Yeah.
But I do think that 201, you could still push forward.
Yeah. It can become part of the story that you tell yourself. You know, I need to fly with Captain Ron, whoever that clown is, or whatever. You know. But you know, and I appreciate that. But for years, all I did was talk to people on the phone, and usually one time, and they'd get on the airplane. So go figure. You know, but it is a lot. But again, flying with Captain Ron, I hear you. But what I also heard more and more, it's the other people in the group. And I swear to you, it's coming in there. Your whole attitude is different. And yeah, maybe I'm going to be there as well. But when you come in there, the people's focus is not on me and how worried I am about what others think of me. It's about me and you guys taking care of each other. And that's what I think was the real strength, and is the real strength. And we're going to explore more. We've got a, you know, just a year ago, Wendy Moy came to Phoenix with two other people, because I'd promised them, despite COVID, I had promised them earlier. I said, we will fly if you guys make it to Phoenix. So we did. The three of us, or three of them and me, flew. And Wendy has flown 48 times. That's nearly once a week for the last year.
Wow.
And she's invited other people to come through. So that's one of my goals in the future, is to get little enclaves where people, you have the confidence, and they can peer, you know, mentor each other. And because that just shows you the strength of the group itself. And I've always believed that in psychology. So anyway, but I want to thank all of you for one, having the courage to get over your fear, because that separates you from 90% of the people, not just with fear of flying, but in all the fears that we face as human beings. The numbers are about 10% of the people will do something about it and change their lives. And so you guys are in a very, very elite group to have done that. And it's proud. It's a moment of pride for me to just know you and be inspired by you. And that's why I love doing this. And unsuspecting, you know, Dieter, Diane, and Eric have all gotten sucked into this, and in a big time, by the same kinds of motivation. So thanks for coming on here. Thanks for being courageous, and thanks for sharing your feelings with us.
Good job, you guys. Great job.
Great job. So anyway, so we want to stay connected with all of you, of course, and keep coming back and asking whatever questions come up for you. And thanks again for coming this evening. And I hope you have a great evening, and be careful. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Fearless Flight Live.
Awesome.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye, everybody. Bye.